I was talking with another business owner not too long ago about how hard the last 5 years have been for them. And somewhere in the middle of that really impactful and deep conversation, I realized that I wasn't really describing their road. I was describing my own. Here's the strange part, and it's the reason that I want to talk to you about it today. The difficulty hasn't come from any of the places that people normally expect. It wasn't the economy, it wasn't hiring or cash or any of the usual things that everyone points to when they talk about how hard it is to grow something. The single hardest thing I have done in the last 5 years was a quiet decision that almost nobody could see from the outside. I decided to stop being the answer person and start being the question person. Now, that's a little soft, right? So let me tell you what I mean by that. Because it sounds small and nebulous, and it has actually cost me more than anything else I've ever done in my career. So for most of my life, I've been the answer person. Someone would bring me a difficult problem, and I'd solve it right there, cleanly. And I would watch the relief spread across their face, and it felt good. I was good at it. I built an entire reputation on it. In fact, I built a whole business on that exact thing. Being the person with the answer felt like the most valuable thing that I could possibly be. And it was also how I knew I mattered. If people needed my answers, then I was worth something. That little equation lived inside of me for years before I ever noticed that it was the thing running the show. I want to be careful here because I don't want it to come across like I'm describing a villain. The answer person is a genuinely good thing to be for a season. People come to you confused and carry something heavy, and you can actually help. And in a lot of moments, you should. You should do it right there today. There's a real hit that comes with that. You watch someone's shoulders kind of drop because you just took a big weight off of them, and it feels like generosity, like love. And that's exactly what makes the trap so difficult to see. The thing that is slowly building a wall around your company looks and feels exactly like service. Nobody warns you that the same instinct that made you so helpful at the start is the one that quietly turns you into the only adult in the room 5 years later. And then you're surrounded by capable people who have learned from you to always bring it back to you. Then I came to believe something that quietly broke that whole equation for me. I became convinced that if the best answers come from within a person, then all answers of value come from within them. Put that next to being the answer person, and you'll see the problem that I was faced with right away. Every time I handed someone my answer, even a genuinely good one, I was reaching over the better answer that was already forming inside of them. I was solving the problem and then shrinking the person in the very same motion. And I was calling it help. So I made the switch. I stopped leading with my answers and I started leading with their questions. And I want to be straight with you about what that has actually cost. Because I'm not interested in selling you a clean version of it. Because there's no clean version of it. Some of my clients have been annoyed with me. They came to hire the answer person. Instead, here I am handing their own questions back to them. And a few of them do not like it one bit. Partners have left the company over it. People I genuinely respected decided that this was not the direction that they wanted. So they walked away. And some of my peers are really uncomfortable with the language that I've started using. Because it doesn't sound like the confident expert that the whole field trains us to be. It's been pretty lonely in a way that I didn't fully see coming. The language is the thing that's actually hardest for me. When you start talking about handing people back to themselves, about asking the question instead of giving the order, it can sound soft to a room full of people who are trained to project total certainty. So I've watched peers go a little quiet when I talk this way, like they're politely waiting for me to snap out of it and come back to my senses. And there's a loneliness in that I didn't expect. Believing in something all the way down to the people around you haven't arrived at yet is hard. And on those hard days, you start to wonder whether you're seeing something early or whether you're just wrong. And I don't always know which it is. Here's what I do know. I can't go back to the other way now that I've seen what it actually does to people. And yeah, I still can't shake it sometimes. If the best answers come from within, then all answers of value come from within. I believe that more now, after everything that it's cost me, than I did on the day that I first said it out loud. I keep asking myself why I hold on to it so stubbornly when it has cost me this much. And it always comes back to the exact same place. In 30 years, I have never once made a person stronger by thinking for them. The growth always ran the other direction. In the moments I closed my mouth and trusted that the person across from me had more in them than they believed that they did. Every answer I handed over was borrowed. It solved the day, and it left the person standing right where they started. A little more dependent on me than they were before. But a question that they had to reach for and answer themselves, oh, that one stuck. It became theirs, even if it was messy, and it made them bigger. Once you've watched that happen enough times, you can't unsee it, no matter how much easier the old way would be on everyone, including you. Here's why I'm telling you all of this on a business blog. And this is why it sits right on top of everything that I've been saying to you for months. Being the answer person is the old job. It's the first job, the one that builds the company, the ones that feels like pure service and pure value, and you still have to put that person out every once in a while. But somewhere along the way, it quietly turned into a ceiling. And as long as you're the source of every good answer, nobody around you ever has to find their own. And the whole company can only ever be as sharp and as wise as the one person everything runs to. That person's you, and you are finite. And so the company stops growing right about where you do. Becoming the question person is the new job. Look, it's harder. It's much lonelier at the start. And it's going to irritate a few people who liked you better as the oracle or the hero. But it's the only version of the job that hands other people back to themselves. When I ask a real question instead of giving a fast answer, I'm not withholding something from someone. I'm handing them the belief that the answer is already in them. And then I'm staying in the room, quiet, while they go find it. That quiet, for me, is the hardest skill, and it's harder than anything I've ever had to learn, because everything in me wants to fill it. And listen, I'm not telling you this from the far side of it, that I've got it solved and that I'm waving across some finish line. I'm still there, and I've paid real cost for it this year, and I'll probably pay more. There are days that the old answer person in me wants to jump back in and feel needed again, because that feeling is kind of like a drug, and I am not immune to that in any way, shape, or form. I don't think you ever fully stop wanting it. You just slowly stop letting it run you. But I've watched what happens on the other side of the switch in the people I stopped answering for. They got stronger. They started trusting their own judgment instead of waiting on mine. And what they built was almost always better than the answer I would have handed them for one very, very simple reason. It was theirs. Here's what surprised me most from this side of it, where I'm just a little bit ahead. I thought that I was going to feel diminished. I was sure that if I stopped being the one with the answers, I'd feel smaller and way more replaceable. The opposite actually happened. Watching someone I had stopped rescuing finally solve the hard thing on their own turned out to be the most satisfying thing in my whole working life. More than any answer that I ever delivered, because I got to watch a person become more of who they actually are. That feeling doesn't shrink you. It grows you into something better than an expert. It grows you into the kind of person who builds other people. And I promise you, nothing about being the answer person ever felt half as good as that does. So if you're somewhere in the hard middle of this, if you're feeling the cost of trying to stop being the one with all of the answers, I need you to hear that the cost is real and it is still worth paying. The annoyance, the loneliness of speaking a language nobody around you is speaking yet, that's not proof that you're doing it wrong. A lot of the time, it's the first proof that you're finally doing it right. The best answers come from within. So do all the answers of value. And that includes the ones inside your people, the very ones you've been reaching over and answering for all this time. Ask them the question. Then be brave enough to go quiet and let them become who they already are.